August 2000. Still working at Frame Art Galleries. Still have no specific memories of what was going on. Just a generic time in my life. Working, living, and reading. And what did I read in August of 2000? Well, let me tell you. The first thing that I read was Into the Maelstrom, edited by Mark Gascoigne and Andy Jones. I'm guessing at that pronunciation. Jones, is that how you say it? This is a Warhammer 40K, or 40,000, anthology, and it reprints a bunch of stories that were in a Warhammer magazine. I think it was Warhammer magazine, and not just like all sorts of stuff with Warhammer in it. But anyway, Warhammer 40,000 has the Space Marines. It's huge, huge stuff, huge game, huge books. And this is just a bunch of different stories from a Space Marine that was left behind after a planet was cleansed. He was considered MIA. He's been living with a farming family, but of course, there's some evil afoot. So stories like that, or an inquisitor, is that what they're called? I don't know. A guy that's interrogating a bad guy and learns about some secret or sacred artifact that they're going to try to find. And just all sorts of different stuff. Space Marines, it's very, if I remember things correctly, I'm not the biggest Warhammer fan or Warhammer 40K, but it's a very sort of religious thing. It's basically the Space Marines, and the whole hierarchy of the humans is religion based, and they're eradicating demons and such. But it's very, if I remember correctly, sort of a super Catholic based kind of thing. But if you're interested in Warhammer 40K, this isn't a bad place to start, because it will give you a taste of all the different types of characters and world building and things that go on. So that's Into the Maelstrom. Next up, we have Angel, Close to the Ground by Jeff Marriott, based on the TV show Angel, which is a spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And in this, Angel is hired to protect a young lady named Karina, who is the daughter of a studio executive. And for some reason, Doyle, the half demon who has visions to guide Angel, has seen that Karina's in trouble, so Angel takes the job. And meanwhile, Kate, the human cop that deals with Angel on occasion, is dealing with some bank robberies. How is that gonna tie in? And there's a Celtic sorcerer who wants Angel for something, and of course, it's all gonna tie together. I think this is the one. But Jeff Marriott's a good writer, and if you like Angel, I think you'll enjoy this book. Then we have To Reign in Hell by Stephen Brust. It's Brust. And this is basically the story of the angels' revolt in heaven. So this is a story that takes place before Earth was created. It's just heaven, God, the angels, and this is what went down. This is a very dialogue-heavy book with a lot of politics and infighting and that sort of thing. When I looked it up, someone compared it just a little bit to Dune in sort of the intrigue that's going on. I don't really remember much about this, but I'm intrigued. It's the kind of thing that, hey, maybe I'll read it again. I followed that up with Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Empire, with a Y, by Will Murray. And this is, I'm a huge Nick Fury fan. I loved the cover of this book. I wish I still had the book. I actually had a print. I don't remember if I've mentioned this before, but I had a print of the cover hanging on my wall. And this is, I know I've talked about this before because there's a terrorist plot to take over the world, and I think it's a Middle Eastern terrorist, and part of their plot is flying planes into buildings. And so Nick Fury and Shield trying to put a stop to it. I like Will Murray as a writer. He does a lot of pulp stuff. He's written a bunch of the current Doc Savage. He's written a lot of different pulp type characters, and he does comic book stuff pretty well. It's Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Empire. All right, then I read Buffy the Vampire Slayer, How I Survived My Summer Vacation, Volume 1. Now, that's all I have written in my little notebook. I don't know why I didn't write down all of the authors that are in this. It didn't say edited by anybody. Normally, that's what I would put down. So I wrote down the authors' names. And this is a short story collection that takes place during the summer following Buffy's sophomore year, which, if you watched the TV show, we never really saw what went on in the summers. The seasons would end right around the end of the actual school year in the real world and would start again right around the beginning of the school year. And so each season followed a school year until they graduated. But even then, Buffy went to college. So we didn't really see summer stuff. And this sort of fills in some blanks. But anyway, the authors are Cameron Doki, Nancy Holder, Yvonne Navarro, Paul Reditis, not sure, and Michelle West. And so you've got, there's a story about Buffy, who has gone to LA to spend the summer with her father, and she's got to fight evil, keep her identity secret from her father. And then you've got the Scooby Gang back in Sunnydale dealing with threats as they pop up. This is a fun little anthology that has stories focusing on different characters. So there you go. If you're a fan of Buffy, and again, it fills in, I don't know how official any of this is, but fills in what went on between seasons. Then we have A Hero Born by Michael A. Stackpole. I've said a couple times already that I didn't think I was reading too much Michael Stackpole beyond his like Star Wars stuff, but apparently I did. This is about a character named Locke, and he has traveled, to the Ward Walls. Yawning. Trying not to yawn. I'm very tired. Almost didn't record this weekend. I was going to skip a week, but I can't do that to you fine folks. Anyway, back to A Hero Born by Michael A. Stackpole. Main character is Locke. He goes to these ward walls that are keeping out the, check my notes, realms of chaos. And Locke wants to become a chaos rider so he can patrol the realms of chaos, what's on the other side of the ward walls, protecting the kingdom, because his father disappeared in the realms of chaos, and he wants to, do his duty and possibly find his father as well. So, Michael A. Stackpole doing a little world building, giving us new characters, a new fantasy realm. And I'm going to say, I must have thought it was all right, because glancing ahead, it looks like there's a sequel that I read the following month. We'll find out next week. All right. I followed that up with Keeper by Greg Rucka. This is his first novel, the book that introduces us to Atticus Kodiak, who is a security specialist / bodyguard, a personal security specialist / bodyguard. I have the book. It's right over there. But it's underneath 29 other books that I didn't feel like moving. Yes, I counted. Since it is his first book, it happens to be on the bottom of the pile because I have my stuff in order. And so all my Greg Rucka paperbacks are on top of it, and then a bunch of, not all of, but a bunch of my Stephen King mass market paperbacks. But anyway, so Atticus Kodiak, this book starts I should reread this right now. Not like literally right now, but very soon. Seems very timely. Atticus Kodiak is taking his girlfriend to get an abortion, And of course, there's protesters outside the clinic. Well, he ends up being hired to protect the director of the clinic and her daughter. And that's what leads us into the plot. And I don't want to say too much more because there's something that happens midway-ish through. It's been a while, so I don't remember exactly at what point in the book it happens, that throws everything into chaos. But it's a fantastic book. And I find it weird that the first book is Keeper and the second book is Finder. You think it would be the other way around, Finder and Keeper, you know? And also, I think I read the second book first. But either way, it's a great book. I love Greg Rucka's writing. His comic books are fantastic. His novels are fantastic. And the Atticus Kodiak books are fantastic. And I really have something in my eye. There's a viewer who doesn't like when I do this. I don't know if they continually view, but they yelled at me for mentioning I had an itch. I say yelled at. They commented about it, said it was unprofessional. But this is really bugging me, whatever's in my eye. And I'm not going to re-record this video because, as I said, I'm very tired. So you're just going to have to deal with me messing with my eyeball. But we're going to move on to the next book, which is The 50 Greatest Conspiracies of All Time by Jonathan Vankin and John Whalen. I don't have this book. I have the updated edition, which is 70 Greatest Conspiracies of All Time. And this is just basically lays out, at the time, the 50 Greatest Conspiracies of All Time. It explains what they are. And I don't recall if the authors take sides. I do believe the very first one, though, is one that I actually think is possibly true, which is the William Randolph Hearst and DuPont and everything making weed illegal, the war against marijuana. Makes a lot of sense, the conspiracy behind that with DuPont and Hearst and everything. But a fascinating book if you have any interest in conspiracies at all. I haven't actually read the new edition. I just got it relatively recently. So this is a book I will be rereading, at the very least, to find out what those other 20 conspiracies are. But really a fascinating book. Then we have The Devil's Brood by David Jacobs. And this is part of a series that was bringing back the Universal monsters. The first was The Return of the Wolfman by Jeff Roven. And that was followed by The Devil's Brood by David Jacobs, which it features the Frankenstein monster, Dracula, the Mummy, the Wolfman. I don't know if the Gillman is in there. But, you know, unfortunately, as excited as I was, as a huge fan of course, monsters and horror and the Universal monsters, these books just did not work for me. I think I had them until relatively recently. And finally got rid of them because they just weren't great covers, great concept, but didn't work. But if you're a big fan of the Universal monsters, maybe give them a try. Maybe you'll like them more than I did. But that's The Devil's Brood, David Jacobs. Oh, and it's basically all the monsters coming back, and the main human character is a mobster that's fighting them. Then we have a book that wasn't covered in 29 other books, and so I was able to pull it off the shelf. And this is The Science of the X-Men by Link Yako and Karen Haber. And this is basically what it sounds like. This is The Science of the X-Men from biomechanics to genetics, from Professor X to Wolverine, the official guide to the scientific reality of the mutant world. It's got a cool, I don't know how well you can see, like blueprint back cover kind of thing. And so this is, I love these types of books. If you watch my reviews, you've seen me covering the Science of series by Meg Hoftel and Kelly Florence. And those are more of a general knowledge kind of thing. This is a book that really digs into science And the theories, potential theories of how maybe some of these mutant powers would work. And each chapter, well, you have different sections. So you have a section on psionics, exotic powers, physical attributes, technology, and alien races. Each section has an introduction, and then so like psionics has Jean Grey, Professor X, Scarlet Witch, etc. Exotic powers, you've got Magneto, Cyclops, Havoc, characters like that, Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, physical, Wolverine, Quicksilver, the Blob, Angel, Beast, etc. Um, and so it explains, you know, I don't know why a non-fan would pick up a book like this, but maybe they have. So it explains who the character is and what their powers are, and then goes into, you know, um, basically kind of the reasons why it's not a reality, I think. And then, but, you know, if we took these physical laws, these things that we know, and we maybe kind of tweaked them a little bit, maybe this power could possibly happen. Really a fascinating book. I love this kind of stuff. These pop culture science books are a lot of fun for me. So if you have any interest in pop culture and science, I recommend it. And then finally, that was the penultimate book of the month. Finally, we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Evil That Men Do by Nancy Holder. And this starts with, I believe, a school shooting, and the whole town of Sunnydale starts going crazy. And essentially, Caligula's ashes have somehow arrived in Sunnydale, followed by two vampires from Caligula's time. And somehow this combination is driving the people in Sunnydale insane. Buffy and the Scoobies have to deal with it. Despite my dislike of most of Nancy Holder's endings, she is a good writer. But I have to say she's 95% a good writer. So I usually don't like her endings. I don't know. But I mean, she tells a good story, and she tells it well till the end. So this is an interesting Buffy book. And I think she does, she and Christopher Golden, who have written Buffy stuff separately and together, are two of the best at capturing the characters and the feel of the show. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Evil That Men Do by Nancy Holder. All right. That is it. That's all I read in August of 2000. My question for this video, I actually have to choose between two. But I think I'm going to go with the simple one, which is, are you a fan of Universal Monsters? And if so, which is your favorite? I don't know if this has come up before. It may have. For me, it's an easy answer. It's one of the latest, if possibly the last addition to the Universal Monsters, the classic Universal Monsters canon, which is Creature from the Black Lagoon. As much as I love the other creatures and characters and things and enjoy the movies, there's just something about the Creature from the Black Lagoon that I absolutely love. It's a Beauty and the Beast kind of story. Not that I'm a fan of Beauty and the Beast. Not that I'm anti-Beauty and the Beast. But how else are you going to describe this movie? It's a Beauty and the Beast story, and I think the Gill Man is a very sympathetic character, and it's just the underwater shots are just beautiful. Such a fantastic movie. I enjoyed Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, all the others, but the Mummy. But the Gill Man is the one for me. What about you? Do you like the movies? If so, what is your favorite and why? Let's throw that in there. Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. And you know what? I'm just going to throw this out there. I think this has come up before, but if you don't want to answer that first question, I'll throw out the second one. What's your favorite conspiracy theory? There you go. Not going to get into it. Um, if you have any comments, questions, corrections, put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I am still on Twitter, and it's at Ronan5757. On Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, it's Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. And if you're on Blue Sky, I am at EL Smith. That's it. That's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.